What's up guys, ArchAngel Manga here, and today's series review is going to be Ouran High School Host Club, a 26 episode series animated by Studio Bones, the same production studio behind Eureka 7, Darker Than Black, Fullmetal Alchemist and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. What is Ouran High School Host Club? Ouran High School Host Club is an anime that completely blew me out of the park. I did not expect this to be as good as it was. I was very, very impressed with it because I'm not really too experienced with watching like shoujo anime or reading shoujo manga. So this was completely new to me. I kind of had low expectations for this, due to like the kind of girly cover. I didn't think that was going to be like my kind of thing, and picked it up on a whim because it was kind of cheap at the time. But yeah, I could definitely say, before I get into the story and the characters, that this is definitely one of the funniest anime I've ever watched. It's rare that I will watch an anime and like have genuine laugh out loud moments. Like I might kind of like smile or like chuckle at something in other anime, if something's kind of funny. But this anime definitely like had me really, really laughing out loud. At some moments. The comedy in this is just absolutely amazing, and obviously I'll get into that in the review. Ouran High School Host Club is about a young girl, Haruhi Fujioka, who wins an honorary scholarship to Ouran Academy. Haruhi comes from like a working class background, so she would have never been able to afford going to such an illustrious academy. From her own like family finances, that kind of thing. She's an honorary student. She's kind of like shy, bookish, nerdish. Kind of keeps herself to herself and prefers to be alone. So when she gets there, like the first episode is literally her just trying to find like a quiet place to read and study, and finds a vacant music room. Walks into it and finds that there's a host club there. Now, what a host club is and what the host club are, they're a group of boys, good-looking, pretty rich boys who serve no other purpose but to entertain young, pretty rich girls who are bored and have too much time on their hands. They'll serve them tea, have romantic conversations with them, fuss over them and things like that. And it's just a place to kind of relax and kind of flaunt your your stuff. Haruhi is obviously surprised when she gets there, but she ends up breaking an expensive antique vase, and obviously because she's poor, comes from a working class background, she can't just like pay for something that's like hundreds of millions of yen or however much it was. So she ends up having to work for the host club herself and become a host in order to pay back her debt. Now, what Haruhi has in her favour is the fact that because she's kind of bookish and like tomboyish, she can pull off a guy, so she ends up having to cross dress and basically fool all the girls that go to the host club that she's a guy, and ends up succeeding at it and actually doing really well, becoming like one of the most popular hosts. That's basically where the story kind of kicks off. From there, it's basically just like episodic episodes that kind of deal with like each individual sort of characters in the host club, and that's one of the things that really shines about this anime, is that it kind of delves into each of the characters and kind of distinguishes each character as their own. And that's one thing that is like the major strength of this anime, is its characters. Even though the characters themselves aren't particularly too deep and there's not really that much character development, each character kind of serves their own purpose and has their own sort of role in the host club. Like literally, the girls who visit the host club will go there and request, a certain member because they have certain traits about them that they find attractive. Like for example, we have the president of the host club, Tamaki, who's the self-confessed lonely prince, who's really flirtatious, very flamboyant, and basically it's like, if you've seen One Piece, imagine Sanji, being like the president of a host club himself. Literally, Tamaki and Sanji are almost identical in personality. That's how I found Tamaki, and I really like Sanji's character from One Piece. So I kind of like felt really familiar with Tamaki instantly because they look act alike. Then we have the vice president of the host club, Kyoya. Now Kyoya handles all the sort of like financial side of the host club, like dealing with, you know, like outgoings and incomings, you know, what's sort of organised, you know, for the host club, because the host club doesn't just like entertain girls, they have like themed sort of like parties where they're like cosplay and things like that, you know, kind of dress up, you know, for the girls, you know, that kind of thing, and make it entertaining as possible. So he kind of deals with that side, like the organisation of the host club. And obviously he has his own sort of traits that, you know, the women find attractive. Obviously he's a member himself, so girls request him. Then we have the twins, Hikaru and Karu. Now their sort of appeal is really, really weird. They're described as twincest, so they kind of have like, they're like kind of their own sort of homosexual kind of tendency, you know, to kind of like appeal to the girls, and, you know, the sort of moe side of the girls, you know, the kind of like yaoi side of the girls, you know, that kind of thing. And like it's really, really funny, but like, you know, it kind of knocked me for six at first, like, oh, that's kind of weird. But, you know, you kind of get used to it, you know, it's just kind of like something that they play up on in order to entertain the girls, you know, so, you know, that's their kind of trait. But even though they're twins and they look identical, they do have their own sort of distinct personalities, which I'll get a little bit more into later in the review. And then the final two members of the host club are Mori and Honey. Now they're kind of part and parcel, like they're pretty much like one member of the host club, because they're kind of inseparable, kind of like the twins, but in a different way. Like Mori only joined the host club because Honey joined the host club. And like Honey, his sort of appeal is his kind of like strong, silent disposition, and like he doesn't really have like any lines or like sort of, you know, kind of development as a character in the series as a whole. Like he will kind of like maybe have like 1 or 2 lines per episode, so it's kind of like easy to kind of brush aside. But not only is his appeal the fact that he's strong and silent, like he has Honey Senpai, who's literally always like on his back. Like he basically is like the boy Lolita, and like he's like the kind of cute kind of like, you know, the cute character who always carries like you know, a bunny rabbit and things like that. And you know, kind of pairing up a strong sort of silent character with like a really cute character, it kind of works for both of them. So that's kind of like their appeal. And like I said, each character kind of like comes about their own, and they each have their own distinct personalities and their own distinct traits. So yeah, that's basically the characters in the host club. They all have their own interesting backstories as well, which kind of, you know, kind of develops them as you know, the characters. You know, a lot of them have quite sad backstories. Haruhi, you know, her mother died when she was, you know, young. Hikaru and Karu kind of struggle with the fact that, you know, they're so similar, and they want people to be able to distinguish them apart, but at the same time they don't want to distinguish them, you know, other people apart, and kind of, you know, decide to put up a barrier towards people. Tamaki has a kind of backstory, but that's only becomes apparent towards the end of the series. And for the most of the series, he just kind of acts as like the goofy kind of character who's always fussing over Haruhi, because Haruhi is kind of like his love interest, kind of. You know, he sees Haruhi as like the one he has to protect, you know, and the one who, you know, he sort of sees as his daughter, which is, you know, kind of funny. The only ones who don't really have like a sad backstory, they do have a backstory, are Mori and Honey. They kind of share the same backstory because they, you know, you kind of learn by, you know, just watching it. But yeah, it was a really, really good anime. Like I said, one of the strongest points is its characters, but the strongest point, the strongest of points for this anime is its comedy. The comedy in this series is absolutely exceptional. Because it's a shoujo anime, like I expected it just to be like really sort of lovey and dovey and like, you know, kind of really sort of cheesy. But it pokes fun at itself and sort of satires the shoujo, and kind of points out the sort of cliches that endure within shoujo. You know, they're called sort of like bishonen, and like, you know, loads of roses and like loads of glitter and, you know, loads of flamboyancy, that kind of thing. But it does it to its maximum effect, to the point where it's like overdone in like the funniest way possible. And I found that like to be really, really funny. You know, really, really clever as well. Another thing is that there's a lot of sort of random humour. Like you could probably make a drinking game out of how many times characters slip on banana peels in this. Now I know that sounds like really, really sort of, you know, lame, and it is kind of lame, but it uses it, you know, like I said, in satire. you'll just see like a random chimpanzee pop out of nowhere, and then everybody's just slipping on banana peels. You know, it's crazy and just hectic, and the comedy's like really fast paced. So you know, there's literally like no sort of room for a breather, which you know just makes it really entertaining and like made the sort of pacing really fast because each episode is like episodic as well. So yeah, I really don't have any gripes with this series. I watched this in the English dub. So you know, I felt the English dub was really good. You know, we have Caitlin Glass voicing Haruhi Fujioka, does a really good job. Then we have Vic Mignogna, who voices Tamaki, who obviously played Edward Elric in Fullmetal Alchemist, and Ginkgo in Mushishi. You know, I think he's a really good voice actor. But yeah, it's kind of like an all-star cast. We have like guest appearances from you know, Christopher R. Sabat. We have Sonny Strait and Mike McFarlane, you know, kind of guest appearing in some of the episodes. But like, you know, some of the recurring you know, voice talents are like Greg Ayres, Todd Habercorn. Todd Habercorn plays one of the twins, Hikaru. Now, one thing that's interesting about the twins is the fact that even though they're identical and like they literally like share the same lines in, you know, the episodes, like they'll talk literally in sequence, you know, in sync with each other. They do have really distinct personalities. Hikaru is the kind of like whiny brat type who can't keep, you know, check of his emotions because he kind of like has emotions for Haruhi and doesn't know really how to kind of deal with that himself. Whereas Karu is the more mature one out of the two and kind of like can keep a level ahead and you know, kind of stays pragmatic and, you know, kind of, you know, he's basically just in check of his emotions and is like more sort of manly in that respect. So yeah, the twins are definitely, you know, very distinct, and you can kind of tell them apart, you know, even though their sort of you know, gripe you know, in their sort of life is the fact that people can't tell them apart, and that's one thing that hurts them most. But yeah, like I said, Todd Habercorn plays the whiny one. Now, Todd Habercorn, I think, is the perfect role for this, because if you remember him, if you've seen Claymore, the anime Claymore, he played Raki, who was like the whiniest, most annoying character in that series, and you know, that anime just did not do his character justice, but Todd Habercorn played him really well. Still, he can play a really good whiny character. So yeah, you know, really good voice talent. I haven't watched it in the Japanese, you know, obviously probably the Japanese, you know, a lot better, but you know, I sometimes just prefer to watch anime in the English dub because I can appreciate the art style, which leads me on to the animation. The animation was smooth. It wasn't anything exceptional. One thing that I can say is, like, you know, really cleverly done is the fact that they've managed to cut corners in a way that is kind of hidden. Like they'll be like kind of like still shots, but it'll still be like kind of animated, if that kind of makes sense. So the art direction in this is like really good, even though they must have had like a limited budget. Let's see. The only complaints I have with this series isn't with the series itself, but more how it was handled and distributed. And that's more on like Manga Entertainment's part. In each episode, there'll be like thought bubbles that kind of represent like the true thoughts of what people are thinking. You know, they'll say one thing but think something else, and that'll be represented by like a little caption. These captions haven't been translated. You have to actually watch it in subtitles to be able to read the captions, so that there's no separate subtitle just for signs only. Like sometimes you will find in animes that they'll be like, you know, in the English dub track they'll be like you'll be able to put on subtitles not only for, you know, the speaking, but also for like, you know, translation of signs and, you know, things like that. And they haven't done that with this, so, you know, I had to watch all of this in the English dub and with subtitles on enabled, you know, to be able to read the captions. So that's kind of annoying, because I would have rather it just been translated for me, you know, not have like subtitles at the bottom of the screen constantly. So, you know, that was kind of annoying, but, you know, because it was so funny and, you know, I enjoyed it so much, it wasn't, you know, that big of a deal. But obviously I do have to pick something out. You know, even though there isn't like too much character development or like story development, like it's not really much of a plot other than like the kind of overarching story that, you know, Haruhi has to pay a debt and work for the host club. You know, even with all those things considered that like should be negatives, like this isn't really the sort of series that you would watch for like deep story or character development, because it is literally just like a laugh a minute thrill ride, you know, with high octane comedy. You know, fourth wall breaks left, right, and center. That's one of the, you know, the biggest things that I found funny about this series is its fourth wall breaks. Like, there'll be moments where Haruhi will like directly address the viewer when, you know, say like Tamaki is doing something stupid or something, or as a prime example later on in the series where Mori has his own sort of episode dedicated to him. Tamaki comments on the fact that it's taking him this long in the anime series to get an episode directly related to him, you know, which I found just absolutely hilarious. I always love fourth wall breaks, and they're always welcome in terms of, you know, my taste for comedy. So yeah, you know, I would give this anime a solid 8.5 out of 10. Not perfect by any means, you know, but it was extremely hilarious, and, you know, it kind of broke my expectations for, you know, what's capable of, you know, this kind of anime. The only thing I'm concerned with is the fact that this anime originally ran in 2006, but the manga, finished publishing in 2010. So that would kind of lead me to believe that the anime has a different ending to the manga. If any of you have read the manga can confirm that to me, you know, that would be greatly appreciated, because I would like to read the manga after this, you know, because I would like to check out more of Bisco Hattori's work, who was the original creator of the series. So yeah, that's really all I have to say, you know, on Ouran High School Host Club. You know, it's a brilliant series. I highly recommend it. You know, recommend anything for me that you think is kind of similar or in the same vein as Ouran High School Host Club, because I would definitely like to check out more series that's similar to this. So yeah, tell me what you think. You know, what are your opinions? Yeah, until then, ArchAngel Manga signing out.